Hello and welcome back to Race Recap. My name is Jackson. This past weekend we had the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Series racing in the third of four endurance races of the 2022 season at Watkins, Glen in New York. And it was an endurance race I mentioned, so 6 hours around this circuit at Watkins Glen. If you want to pause the video, take a closer look at the track. Of course, the NASCAR, when they come here, they go through this little gray area leaving out the boot. So the sports cars had to adapt to this longer track course. They usually do the long track when they come to Watkins Glen. And it was a 6 hour event at Watkins Glen, so a long race as usual for an endurance cup. The first caution brought out pretty early on. Anthony Mantella spun around in the LMP3 entry, or one of 11 actually. Of course, all five classes racing here since it's a full endurance championship, and you can get some points actually at the halfway mark in the endurance cup. So when they got back going, there was another full course caution with two more LMP3 cars. It was when the Jared Andretti car, number 36, spun around with the 33 championship leader. Lance Wilsey was in the car at this time, the number 33 LMP3 car, both of them, and they both spun it out down in the turn, and that brought out a full course caution. And the third caution was brought out with another LMP3 car. This time it was the 13 Ori Findani. Got a little help from the Andretti car behind him in the number 36. So Findani spun around, entering the bus stop. He actually spun right through it, and that brought out a full course caution as he was around in that number 13. Then the fourth caution brought out Dylan McCavern in the number 6. I believe that's the Mueller Motorsports entry, another LMP3 car. He absolutely had an engine expire as he climbed through the S's. And out of all series we recap here on the channel, I don't think I've seen one explode that big in quite some time. It might just be the biggest explosion of an engine I've ever seen. If you get a chance to look at that replay, I'd suggest you look at it. Might be nothing to see because all you can see is smoke on the track. That actually showed an onboard from behind. It was one of the Aston Martins in one of the GTD classes. You could barely see anything. Fortunately, Dylan pulled off into one of the runoff areas where the safety crew was there immediately, so hopefully he could see as he came across the track. Wasn't much traffic behind him, so they all avoided that exploding number 6 car. Fortunately, he was okay. And then they got back going, didn't get much of a rhythm before another incident occurred. This time it was again the 13 car. This time it was Lars Kern behind the wheel. Of course, multiple drivers in the IMSA, and of course there are more drivers than usual here. Some teams had 2, but most had 3 drivers for the endurance race. So they all took usually some stints, maybe 2 hours each, an hour and a half, 2 hours and 2.5. Just depends on what the team decides on. But it was when down in turn number 1, looks like he just lost it on the turn 1 curb, and he spun down and hit driver's side hard into the turn 1 inside tire wall, and that did end the 13 car's day. Fortunately, Kern did appear to be okay. Then we finally got into a bit of a rhythm here, where there were a few incidents on track, though none bringing out a full course caution, so there was no caution when Tony Villander in the GTD car got into the side of Zachary Robichon in the number 16 Porsche in GTD, and that was a Ferrari actually who got into the Porsche right there, but again, no caution. And then another Ferrari involved in an incident. This time it was a different Ferrari from that last one. Got into John Miller, I believe. He was in the number 70. It was a McLaren, actually, went around. Another GTD car, but there was no caution. And then the sixth and final full course caution, a huge accident. It was involving a couple LMP2 cars that were battling out for, I believe it was around the lead or at least second place in class. But they were battling and they touched wheels and they got into the side as they were lapping past the 39 of Jeff Westphal and a Lamborghini entry in the GTD class. He got tapped and he spun into the inside wall, came back across the track, and he nosed it hard into the tire wall. I think it ripped his left front tire off and the whole nose was gone. You could not tell that it was hardly a Lamborghini. Of course, the whole front nose was gone. Fortunately, he was okay. But the track was not okay because there was some lightning and eventually a little bit of rain in the area that had this race go to a red flag condition. And I think last year in one of the 2 races, they ran the 6-hour race and a 2-hour 40-minute race last year at Watkins Glen. Then at least one of them, it did get rain till the end. Fortunately, though, we were able to get back going. This happened with around an hour left in the event. They were able to get back going a little under 20 minutes left to go, so over a half-hour delay at least. But they went caution-free and incident-free to the end, but the battling on track was crazy. In DPI, the lead class, Daytona Prototypes, The two Acuras battling it out all day long, once again for the lead of the class and for the win of the race. Ricky Taylor and Felipe Albuquerque was Albuquerque in the number 10 car at this point, trying to get to the checker flag. He passed by Tom Blomqvist, who was in the 60 Acura. They were battling out for the lead. He outbraked him into the bus stop and did not look back from there. He couldn't afford to stop anymore because fuel was very tight for that 10 car, and multiple drivers in GTD and GTD Pro also had to come down pit road to top off because they could not make it to the end. Fortunately, Ricky Taylor, well, it was Felipe Albuquerque in the car at that point. He was able to hold off from behind, defending the Acura of Blomqvist, and manage his fuel situation to make it to the end and win the race. So he and Ricky Taylor got it in that number 10 Acura for Wayne Taylor Racing in Konica Minolta. Also, LMP2 in that class, of course, they had 3 drivers. Every other class had 3 drivers, except in DPI. A couple did, though, in DPI. It was Ben Keating, Mikkel Jensen, and Scott Huffaker winning the race in the number 52 car. Gar Robinson, Felipe Fraga, and Kai Van Berlo won it in the number 74 Riley Motorsports entry in LMP3. And it was GTD Pro, same car as GTD, just the pro drivers over there. Connor DeFilippi, John Edwards, and Augusto Farfus won it in the number 25 Rahal Letterman Lanigan entry, number 25 BMW. And then just behind him as they crossed the line, Russell Ward, Philip Ellis, and Marvin Dinst won it in GTD in the number 57 Mercedes. And as I said, in LMP2, it was Ben Keating, Mikkel Jensen, and Scott Huffaker. They had to battle to get this win. They were almost side by side coming across the line with the number 8. It was Louis Delatraz in the car at that time. So just barely by the nose, literally the nose, of that LMP2 entry, they were able to win the race in class. Well, that's all for race recap. Come join us in just a week. It's a quick turnaround for the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. They will go up north across the border at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park at a 2 hour and 40 event race.